Hello and welcome to another episode of Resilience Rock Sales. Today, I am joined by Regan Barker, and we connected, oh my gosh, it must be about a year and a half ago or something like that. It's somebody that has been a mutual connection of many people I've chatted to and who I had scheduled on the podcast to come on about a year ago. And then there was a reschedule, and this is a bit of a shout out to Luigi. Luigi, it's time to come back and reschedule your interview. I've been sending little pokes. Luigi Prestonenzi has been someone that brought us together, and I'm super grateful for that. Regan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Stacey. It's awesome to be here.
And since we actually booked the interview in, you have had a new role, and I'd love to hear, first of all about your backstory, what brought you to be here today. It'd be awesome to hear about your story and your evolution has evolved into the brand new role that you're in today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess let's start with the role. It's now the head of revenue operations at Grant Thornton. With that, the role has definitely evolved over time. It was originally head of sales enablement, but what we actually found that during sales enablement, we established the tools, the sales training, the techniques, working with our wonderful partners here, that we were able to extend it to sales. We were able to extend the capability to inbound sales, to outbound sales, extend my team and grow my team into a proposals best practice hub as well. And now we're looking into ways to ensure that alignment between sales, marketing, campaigns, revenue, profitability all comes under consideration as a part of that. Now, I'm not the owner of all things, but what it means is that I'm able to work with a wonderful, wonderful team of people to kind of bring this ambition of growth and strategy together, which is amazing. In terms of my backstory, though, so I originally started out in a marketing role in professional services when I was in my early 20s around the GFC. Since then, I moved from marketing into business development in professional services, a little bit different than your traditional business development roles in more B2B. Essentially, like your long-term BD strategy, but supporting either the partners or the fee earners of professional services firms. So those experts, technical experts delivering services, whether law, engineering, certain consulting, accounting, you name it. During that time, though, I did jump around a fair bit, law, accounting, and then I went into banking, and I worked in transactional banking for a few years and worked with some wonderful, wonderful salespeople that I learned a lot from, and then came back into professional services. And what I found was there was a huge gap between what your traditional professional services business development is and what's possible in terms of B2B. And I think that there's a way that we can bring those together to ultimately create sales efficiencies, sales acumen for more technical experts, because essentially they are strained by time of day. They have to make sure that they are delivering a service constantly to their clients at the highest quality, ensure their advice is on point as well. They look after the billing. They coach their own teams and bring them up through the ranks. And then they still have to carve out time to deliver from an account management perspective, but then also new to firm sales as well. So I thought there's a way for us to be able to bridge that gap, go out and to market on their behalf, as well as teach and train them in more, I guess, intelligent sales techniques to create those efficiencies, but also be able to tackle the challenges with what is now essentially B2B sales, which is so different to what it was even a few years ago.
So, what has changed then?
I think a lot has changed, to be honest. What we've seen over the past few years is there's more decision makers within any buying process. Definitely seeing it at the larger end of town. If I was to think about, say, professional services, for example, or even large procurement processes, you'd have procurement, you'd have CFOs, CEOs, the board potentially involved, any head of risk. So already that's like 7 to 12 people, and that's what statistics are kind of showing us at the moment. And then you have organizations like Sixth Sense showing that the majority of B2B purchases, when organizations are going to research, they get almost 70% of the way through a buyer journey before they actually create or make contact with an organization. So essentially, they're doing majority of the research. They're shortlisting you before they're reaching out, and then they reach out. So what we're finding is that those who respond quickly are more likely to be winning that work as well. So you need to almost ensure your marketing is of highest quality to ensure that you're in that mix. Your top of funnel brand awareness is very, very strong to be included in that mix. And then on the other side of that, the responsiveness, a detail, and the client experience through the sales process is very, very strong to enhance your ability to win the work as well. So ultimately, just trying to ensure that we can embed great practice within our own firm.
So that sounds like it has then definitely changed as you said, the point at which they're engaging you. So,
Yes.
and so that would be said quite a big shift from the traditional way that the process had been done. And as you said, that sort of having to bring in that marketing piece. And I know traditionally there's times where sales and marketing have not gotten along, or there's the finger pointing with what belongs to
Yeah.
who and all that type of stuff. So in your experience, as you've sort of seen how you needed to bring that together, what does that look like for you?
Oh, it's a really good question. And to be honest, I think it's something that's constantly evolving. I first of all, working with the broader team of Grant Thornton, Mary Flanagan and Ben Scott, the two heads of that I work with closely on the marketing business and business development sides as well. It really means that our teams need to align, and they really, really do. We just need to get better at the processes of handover. We've done quite a few things in terms of ensuring that across the whole firm, we focus on ideal client profiles. We isolate our clients effectively based on their needs. We look at campaigns end to end, not just as a one milestone like an event, but like how do we draw that out into a strategic process, isolating our targets, ensuring both existing and potential clients are in that mix, going through, effective communications from a marketing perspective, ensuring that we have quality content and insights to educate our clients. And then off of the back of that, we then need to make sure that handover is quite smooth and effective as well. Now, traditionally, professional services firms would have partners or your senior technical experts be making them active out in the market, which we do. What we're doing now is trying to build out the processes to ensure that my team can leverage a lot of that content effectively as well to ensure that we get the most traction out in market. So what I mean by that is, if we won't necessarily, like my team won't look after existing clients, that's obviously with the partners who already have those deep and wonderful relationships. What we would do is be going out into the market with these insights to try connect and nurture new relationships as well. So we're in that phase of building that at the moment, which I think is incredibly exciting. What I love about it too is that we've got very intelligent people that can come together and want to make this work really, really well. I have heard the stories of marketing versus sales, but I feel like this is just an exciting adventure for all of us to kind of come together and see what we can create. So hopefully we can change the tune of this marketing versus sales and move towards that like true alignment and integration.
And it sounds like in your new role that you've got a real opportunity from a leadership perspective to do that.
Absolutely. One thing that I love working with the team at Grant Thornton is if you do have an idea, we're not necessarily hesitant around failure. What we would try to do instead, and we all have this thing about we love a pilot. Like, so if we can do something, we can trial it in a small controlled way, ensuring that it is effective, and we've considered all angles, and we can go out to market with it. If it works, fantastic. We can build on that and learn from it. We wouldn't ever go out to market with, I guess, something that was unplanned. So we do put a lot of thought in how we try these new things. And I think that each time we've reached success because we have put that strategic thought behind it. Where it hasn't worked, we've come back to the drawing board and been like, okay, how can we adjust? How can we amend this to make it successful? Or, you know what, that was a failure. We didn't hit the mark on that one, but we have learned a lot. And in fact, we should go in this other direction instead. So I think that like not all firms have that possibility though. So I think it's part of our culture to really listen to our people, to, I guess, identify those great ideas, to try things in a controlled manner and see how things work. I think that being able to work with people that can bring up ideas and feel safe to do so, it ends up like pushing the boundaries in really wonderful ways. So yeah, it is exciting.
I mean, it does sound exciting, and also that that's encouraged, because I guess being in professional services, it's seen as a fairly risk averse
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
environment as well. So it's cool that that is something, as you said, that's encouraged, and that, as you said, failure is not frowned on. So that's a good one. And I guess that's the thing, is when we're talking about resilience, then there's the element of failure and everything like that linked in there. So, in your experience, and particularly in your career as you've evolved through these different aspects of sales and marketing, and then into these leadership roles, what role do you feel that resilience has in being successful in sales?
To be honest, if we think about anything in sales, you have the behaviors, you have the attitude, but let's go back even before that. There's a philosophy, right? You have to have resilience as a part of that philosophy. I think that sales, you're never going to win 100%. You're never going and if you win anything above a 70%, you're absolutely killing it. So what we're finding today is that, there are a lot of salespeople out there that aren't meeting targets. And, that is the shift at the moment. But you need resilience to be able to be like, okay, how can I pivot? How could I learn from this experience? With resilience, I think that you have to have that as your base to even be able to, adjust your attitude, to adjust your actions in any sales role, to be honest. With it, I think that resilience is more than just knockbacks as well. It's also about how to plan to go forward. Even if you're performing at a high level, I think resilience means that you're never complacent with what you're doing and wanting to continue to be better as well.
And is there anything that you do personally to build your resilience? And then I guess in addition to that, what are the kind of things that you do as a leader to, I guess, encourage, nurture um,
Yes.
resilience in the teams that you work with too?
So I guess me as an individual, I think about a few things. And, just before we actually kick this off, or even talking about language, right? Like how important language is. If I could think about one thing to start off, it's even how I speak to myself. Like historically, I would not necessarily say the most positive things in my own mind. So really, first of all, switching that dialogue to, okay, if I'm thinking a negative thought, how do I switch this into an opportunity? Or say, you know what? Yes, that wasn't my best result. Let's take accountability. What are the steps to move forward? One thing I think with resilience is being able to, you know, understand and I guess and accept the existing situation and then make a plan to be able to get stronger. And it's, those little consistent, I guess, changes that you make over time that really build that muscle. So that's what I try to do, is just ensure that, positive frame of mind, meditation, journaling. And in fact, I think from when you were on Luigi's podcast, you were talking about when you journal, and mine was, at the start of the day, I actually changed because of you to the end of the day, and I found that really useful. Um, and then also just in terms of, I try to create resilience through every part of my life as well. So, while like at work, but I also make sure that I'm focused on challenges outside of work to continue to have that resilience built. So I'm counting down to a half Ironman in a few weeks. I'm a bit nervous, but that sort of thing. So I try to incorporate it in every part of my life and make sure that that positive and strong internal voice is there. In terms of my team, I generally try to ensure understanding where they are. Like, well, how do they think about themselves? How do they work day to day? How do they, I guess, address knockbacks? I work with some very phenomenal people that are very resilient. If they receive a knockback or want to talk about it, just being there and listening, maybe give them a little bit of advice, but really just encouraging them to know that they're on the right path and that they are in the driver's seat of their career and whatever's kind of in front of them, and just kind of help them problem solve. Um, I think that most people within Grant Thornton and then also within my team are very ambitious, and they have goals. So for me, it's not necessarily how do I get them there, but how do I help them get themselves there, essentially. So really around that goal setting, ensuring that they know that they're achieving their goals and encouraging them along the way, I guess.
I like that you highlighted there about helping them to see where they are achieving their goals, because I
Mhm.
think particularly when you're a high achiever and you're incredibly ambitious, that usually comes with being incredibly hard on yourself as
Yeah.
well. And so there is a tendency at times to sort of feel like, oh, I'm not getting there, or I have messed up, or even, when we spoke earlier, I was sharing that calendar pressure,
Yeah.
and the calendar pressure that comes sometimes when you think, okay, I'm going okay. But then when you have that look back and you go, okay, well, when I look at it and I go, it's taken this long, then that becomes, you get a little bit hard on yourself at times and going, well, okay, well, why am I not there yet? So it's really good that you are able to be, that external person, and I guess that mentor and all that type of stuff as well, that can actually help them to see those things. And I always love that saying that you can't read the label from inside the jar.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and that one just is something that as soon as I heard that years ago, I'm like, oh my gosh. And that again, the importance of the external eyes and the coaches and the mentors and all those type of things. Um, to first of all help to align those
Mm.
goals and do that and create the plans, but also those little check-ins and those reminders just to go, yes, you are on the right track, and look at where you have come from, and then be able, as you said, to help them problem solve and things like that as well. So it sounds like that, first of all, good team, good culture, and then also just to be able to then provide that mentorship along the way. It sounds like it's a good environment, and I can see that you're pretty excited about it too.
Oh, absolutely. And you're so right. Like, even I had a wobble earlier this week, and I messaged Luigi. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm achieving enough. Like, I need to move faster. I need to do more. I need to refine this. And he's just like, mate, settle down. Like, look how much you've achieved in the last few years. Like, you've got big goals, yeah, but like, celebrate what you've kind of done. Um, and I think that it really depends on where you're at in your career. If you're learning the certain skills and then you're able to achieve that, and then what's next? Or for me, in the last 2 years, I've been building a team, building the processes, enhancing the tools, like enhancing integrations, creating efficiencies. And now we're at this point where we're like, all right, how do we continue to turn the dial, and what dials should we turn? So it's a little bit, I feel like achievement is a little bit slower, and maybe that's where I'm getting this hesitation, but you need the external voice to be able to, like, I guess, even in resilience, to be like, well, hold on, yes, you have actually achieved a lot, and sometimes you just need to hear it from other people to be like, yeah, okay, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the principles that I share on resilience is having that support
Yeah.
and connection, and then being able to do that. And also too, one of the things that I suggest to people as well, particularly if they're not working with a coach, or it's a time where they're sort of getting in that bogged down, particularly at the end of the day when you're sort of thinking, oh, there's all these things that are still on my to-do list, is where I get people to actually do their done list. And so if you do your done list, and I do that often in the process of my evening journal as well, is I'll actually list out some of the things that I did get done. And often there's things that got done that weren't on the to-do list that were actually either better, more productive, move the needle more, or just even just more enjoyable than the stuff that was still sitting there on the list. And I think there's that tendency, isn't there? Especially when you're trying, especially when you're looking at things where you've got KPIs and there's data and there's all these type of things, um, to get stuck, get stuck sometimes in the data part of it or the data that's ahead.
Yes.
And so, yeah, so being able to actually just stop for a moment and go, yeah, tick off those wins and especially things that weren't on the list. So,
Absolutely. I think there's a piece around I think I learned a while ago around avoid the avoidance. So like as soon as I get up, the one thing that is bugging me or stressing me out or is the biggest or hardest task, I will carve out time to do that first. So the rest of like whatever happens for the rest of the day, done the hardest thing. And that to me like creates a level of energy and confidence for the rest of the day. There was a gentleman that mentored me even last year, who told me this story, and I hope I won't mention his name, but he was sick, quite ill for a few years, and as a leader, and he could only work a certain amount of time a week, while he was going through treatment. Now he said to me or asked me the question around if you could only work 1 week out of every two, what would you prioritize and what would you push to the side or delegate or whatever. So really, from that, I was like, oh, like that is such a juicy question that if I look at a to-do list now, I'm like, okay, if I could only have half of my working time to work on this list, what are the things that will create the biggest impact and for me, for the most amount of people as well. So I think that that's another tool that I've kind of adopted along the way to be like, instead of like, yeah, we can all have these large to-do lists and those things are endless, right? You can continue to write things on the bottom, but what creates the biggest impact, that's the sort of stuff that you should be focusing on.
mm, I like that. And that sort of goes in line with the book, The One Thing, which was great because it always says, well, what's the one thing that you can do? But by doing that would make other things either unnecessary or easier to do. And so I really like that as a lens as well as looking through that. And similarly, like one of my business coaches, he's always called it success through subtraction.
Yeah, I like that.
So, yeah, success through subtraction. So it's like, what can you chip away that enables you then to be able to focus better on, again, the needle movers, the things that actually really matter and really make a difference. Because, yeah, sometimes you can actually think there's a tendency sometimes when you got the list to try and just get those little dopamine hits just from ticking off the easy stuff, and then you don't end up getting to the good stuff. Um, and as that mentor said to you about getting that hardest thing, and it's like the Brian Tracy Eat That Frog, the
Yes. Yeah.
a classic productivity book. It's like, what do you need to do? You need to get up and you need to eat the ugliest frog first.
Mm.
And again, the same coach that I worked with, he called it your MIT, your most important task. So,
Yes. Yeah. There's also a book that's 10x is better than 2x.
oh my gosh, I've just gone through that.
So good.
I really, really love it. And again, I think look, it really ties in so much of resilience as well.
Yes.
Because you need to make sure that you are doing the things that are your strengths. It's one of these things that people go, oh, about shoring up your weaknesses. But I think in most aspects of your life, we're better to delegate our weaknesses and then really go all in on our strengths. And
Mm.
I've really liked that in the 10X book. And then identifying, well, what are those unique abilities that you have? And then being able to just pick up all of these little things along the way. And with that, what are you reading at the moment?
I'm actually finishing off 10x is better than 2x because that to me is such a great concept. And as soon as I started reading it, I did get a bit sick over the last few weeks. So I had to put it down, but I've just picked it back up again. That to me is an absolute game changer because I think it's like, oh wow, yeah, you double down on the most important things. Because if you just want 2%, or 2 times growth, you end up doing all of this stuff. Whereas if you just focus right, I'm going to focus on these 3 things, the rest will kind of happen as BAU, but just 3 things or whatever that's going to really shift the dial and do them very, very well. And it can create much better strategic growth. That's the one for me. The other one that I've just picked up is Getting to Yes, which is like a negotiation sort of book. That's probably my biggest weakness. I generally can be quite agreeable. So I need to kind of work on that part. I know it's a weakness, but it's part of the sales cycle. So I need to always ensure that I'm keeping up to date on every part of the sales process as well.
For sure, for sure. And especially because you're gonna be coaching your team in these things too.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, that's the thing, you're right as well, is like going back to your point around, focusing on your strengths rather than your weaknesses, is that if you do have weaknesses, whether you're a leader or a team member, surrounding yourself by people that you can either be coached on to, reduce those weaknesses, see what kind of is best practice or how other people deal with that, or then be able to say, hey, this isn't a strength of mine. Can I focus on these things instead? And someone else does that part of the role. That, those sort of conversations should kind of happen because, recently I took on the proposals team as well here, and led by the wonderful Alana Sun. I've worked with her for many years across a few different organizations. Now, her and I disagree quite a lot, but we've got such a wonderful relationship where we can disagree because we come from it from two different sides, but it always comes out to the best possible outcome as well. So, being able to have people that are very, very skilled but show a different angle, I think if you can work with them in a very collaborative way, can also push you to either be more resilient, but then also to a better outcome as well.
Bit of creative discourse.
Oh, I love it. I think it's wonderful. It's a good thing to be able to disagree, to get the best outcome. I think that's always a magnificent place to be when you work with people as well.
I think just in all aspects of our lives, I think,
Yeah.
really it's like even in yeah, and look, social media is and algorithms have created echo chambers a lot for
Yes.
us really that it's just that all that, confirmation bias. It's like everything that you see is just what you
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
believe, and it just feeds into that. So I think that where you can seek out ways to challenge your thinking is always going to be healthy. And to me, resilience is about growth. So
Yes.
it's a good opportunity to do that and to put yourself into some situations where you're going to have your ideas challenged. I think
Yeah, and
it's
they absolutely, they should be. And this is, reading multiple newspapers, crafting and following things that you don't necessarily agree with, but could potentially challenge your thoughts. Like anything like that, there's certain um, individuals that I follow on multiple platforms, and that just because they have a different perspective, I might not necessarily agree with it, but it does help, frame that whole view of something rather than just having tunnel vision as well, which is really important.
I agree. And going back to, as you said, challenging yourself personally. So tell us more about your preparation. I know you said you had a little bit of a blip
Mm.
recently, but your preparation for that half Ironman?
Yeah, so this is the first kind of big race or endurance race I've been able to do in a few years. A few years ago, I was actually descending Mount Gravatt while training for Port Mac Ironman, and I happened to have a bike accident, which led me to find out I had an underlying brain condition. So then, I had surgery, and I've fortunately been able to minimize this chronic pain that I've lived with for most of my life. And so this is the first time I've been able to get back after a few years post surgery for training. Now I'm really nervous. I don't think I've put in enough training, but I've got like 5 weeks to go. And so now we're just at the end of the training, and hopefully, look, the goal is to finish, get a time, and then improve on it. Like, apart from that, I just need to make sure that I slow down, keep a pace, make sure my hydration and fuel's okay, and then probably, I guess, get a little teary at the finish line when I make it because it's been such a long road, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, and it's interesting the common themes that come up, isn't it, in business and life? It's like I don't know that I've got enough.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, and to be honest, I don't know who it's not like, I'm, Olympic quality at the moment, but I did find out the other day that there's no form to fill out if you wanna go to the Olympics. So I'm just going to call myself an Olympic hopeful for future, and then hope that I'll eventually get better and better. I don't know if it'll be athlete like level, but hey, if I can finish a big goal like this, we'll see what happens next.
I was going to say, you got some good inspo at the moment with your Grant Thornton ambassador.
Oh, isn't she amazing? Yeah, Jessica Fox is just a phenomenal woman. We are very, very fortunate to be able to work with her, with our brand. An exciting alignment. We have very mutual values, and I think the whole firm is behind her in what she's doing over there. She's done an incredible job, not just for herself, but for our country. I think she's just a wonderful ambassador overall.
Yeah, she's from my local area.
So,
So their dad's the president of the Chamber of Commerce here. So
oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
I
so
love
it's-
his commentary on it. He always gets a bit emotional.
while I don't really follow sports or anything anymore, but I've seen it in LinkedIn through the Penrith Chamber stuff that keeps popping up. But I love, as you said, that when you find out these things, that there's no form. It just comes down to a point where, you need to, I guess, qualify. And then the hard part is then you still got to get selected.
Yeah, I don't think that I would, I'm nearing 40. There's no way I'm going to be able to do it. But I was just like, how amazing is that? You don't fill out a form. You can just call yourself an Olympic hopeful.
We're here to say you're training for the Olympics.
Yeah, it's just whether you get in or not is a different story.
Totally, totally. I did that years ago, and as a young person, like before I had my injury, I was an athlete, and then obviously after I had my injury, I was like, okay, no more. And then I picked up sports again in my 30s and got called a mature age athlete. But then it was one of those things where, again, like my goal was to try and get to the Paralympics. So I was like, yep, okay, yep. So I'm training to qualify for the Paralympics.
Fantastic.
Never did, but
What
they kept
sport have you
changing.
got?
Oh, I ended up going back to athletics, which was like this whole, full circle, because running was my passion when I was a kid. Yeah, and then I ended up with this crazy story of throwing discus left-handed when I'm right-handed. Just, improvising to the extreme. But it was just, I think sport does teach us a lot, particularly about resilience and disappointment and setback and working towards goals and all of that type of thing. So I think it's really nice to be able to have something like that, because it's very tangible as well, and measurable. And I really like it. So I'm excited to hear that you've got your event coming and actually back on the bike.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic though that you essentially completely shifted your sport, and then how you would do it like left-handed rather than right. That is
Crazy.
an amazing story of resilience. And you're right, just team sports, individual sports has, I think, crafted a lot of my resilience from childhood to now. One of the things with it is that it does show the incremental improvements and steps, like the consistency over anything else matters more than anything, really. And I think that's showing up every day to training. Same thing as showing up to learning a new skill or enhancing your skills in work. And if you've got behavior in both, I think they cross-pollinate almost. If you're diligent in training, you're generally diligent in making sure you're improving in a professional sense as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Definitely agree. It's nice to be able to bring those, but it's also nice to have something outside of work too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted to loop back to something that you mentioned earlier on too. You mentioned about, I think the phrase you used was like intelligent sales. I'd love to know more about what you mean by that, and how is that could potentially different to traditional sales.
Yeah. Well, okay. So have you been on LinkedIn recently and been like connected with a person and then they instantly try to sell you something?
So often.
So often, right? So that's what I call the pitch slap. Like it's like connect and pitch, and it's like straight away. That to me isn't intelligent. They haven't built up any trust or rapport with you whatsoever. One of the things that, like in terms of that buyer behavior that's changing, we're seeing this from B2B retail, that people are less likely to be loyal to certain brands because they've got so many options these days, right? So why don't we leverage that in saying, okay, you have many options. And because if you're buying the way you buy to B2C, it will translate to B2B because everyone has an emotion within their buying purchases or that. So intelligent like selling is essentially like nurturing. So building up that trust and rapport, leveraging consulting and your more challenger sale techniques as well. Not expecting something to happen overnight. It happens over time. So, if you even look at, say, social media, you're scrolling through Instagram, for example, you will be given 3 posts that you want, that you follow, that are interested to you. And then the 4th one, you are sold something. So, we are naturally attuned to be like receive things and then be open to something else. So if that's on the B2C side, let's use that effectively with your B2B sales as well. So give insights, give recommendations, give referrals, give reports, give an invite to a webinar without asking anything in return. Because then people will be like, okay, this individual is interested in me. They're sharing insights that are relevant. It starts to lower that tension. So I think that over time, building that trust first will ensure that you will actually be able to get to the conversation. So stop thinking about it as like, I need a quick sale, and actually think about it as long-term, like strategic relationships. And that's what I mean by intelligent sales. It's not rocket science. And in fact, like a lot of us do it anyway. But if we're trying to push to reach a budget, to reach a KPI, we won't like revert to these quick sale tactics that just don't work. So we need to make sure that intelligent sales, consistency, leveraging, multiple touch points. It generally takes, I think, up to 19 touch points. Forrester recorded a few years ago. And it's a mix between human and non-human touch points. So, you need to make sure that you are able to either do face-to-face phone calls, that sort of stuff, as well as ensuring that you're leveraging your marketing content as well through digital nurturing, social media, LinkedIn, you name it. A combination of all of that in a well thought out sequence where you're like giving them or the buyer something that's going to make their job easier, make them look good, that sort of thing, rather than the, hey, I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn and then I'm going to tell you why you should buy from me. Like that to me is just distasteful. And in fact, like I'm almost at the point where I'm like, hey, I'm a sales coach. Do you want some training? Because I almost feel bad for them if they're just getting rejection after rejection after rejection. Mind you, their resilience is probably there though.
It's the old spray and pray, isn't it? I think they're just going,
Yeah.
Sales is a numbers game. Just go out and
Yeah, and it is, but like, you want those numbers to be quality as well. So I think that like if you're going to do that, you have to reflect on, is this the best way? Am I getting the most profitable work? Am I using my energy and time effectively? And if any of those answers are no, then you need to look at different ways and really start to research like buyer behavior and ensure that we're enabling the buyer within their own decision-making processes, and think beyond one person. You have to think now up to 12 as well.
yeah, which definitely complicates things a hell of a lot more, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
as you said, having to be more thought out in that. I'd love to know what role then sales enablement has in that process then, because it's been interesting. It's been something that's popped up in a few conversations on the podcast so far, but we've never really dug into enablement and what that
Mm.
actually means and what it looks like. So I'd love to know what does it mean to you in your experience, and then what does it actually look like?
So for how we've crafted it here, a few things. Originally, Sales Enablement was setting up the technology to ensure that we could support our partners in their sales techniques. Once that was established, we were able to then look at the training piece of it. And that includes training from a behavioral point of view, what's actually happening on the B2B sales side and how to leverage that effectively, and then also how to use the tools effectively as well. So now, over the journey or course of a few years, we've been able to build out multiple programs related to the role. So, for example, we have a face-to-face 2-day partner training that goes through end-to-end how to, on the earlier stages of a sales cycle. So really from that targeting through to connect and nurturing potential buyers. And then what we've done is made appropriate training for directors, which are those who want to be promoted into the partnership, and then another level down being the senior managers and managers. So what I want to ensure is that by the time a manager or even, more junior than that gets up to partnership, that they have the confidence, the resilience, the ability, the capability to be able to go out into the market in potentially a completely, again, different buyer's market, and be able to source their work effectively to create what I consider their dream practice. If they're coming to work every day, I want them to be able to spring out of bed and love the partners that they work with internally, and then also make sure that they have a good client base that they really, really want to support, that also really want to engage our partnership. And so there's that, I guess, a strong relationship between us and the buyers. But with that, we need to ensure that they have exposure and they ensure that, they can incorporate it in their everyday. So what we try to do is focus on mindset, skill set and tool set, essentially. How do you effectively wrap those up in a nice bow appropriate to the levels? And then what we also try to do is how do we embed and ingrain this in every day? Because if I'm a partner, I'm just, at 6 hours of meetings or whatever, internal, external meetings, and then I've got 15 minutes to focus on sales, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? And you end up looking in your CRM, looking on LinkedIn, and then next minute that 15 minutes is gone. So I want to make sure that it's purposeful, actionable sort of behaviors that they can kind of take away, again, consistently moving the dial towards their dream practice.
That sounds great. And obviously, you've done a lot of work on that over the previous few years and things like that. So,
Always room to grow though, Stacey. So it's all good.
oh, it is, isn't it? What isn't growing is dying. So it's always good to be focused on that. And with that, as you just stepped into the new role, what are you most excited about as you're getting into that?
Uh, it- I think now, because originally when I started it, it was me and then me and one more other person and then growing it out. It's now to enable the team to do their best. I think that's the most important thing. I think we have an incredible team, both within the revenue operations and then the broader marketing, business development, sales, communications team. I want to ensure that I can help support other people in their career, and then also see what we can achieve as a team together, to be honest. And like I said, we've done the build. Now it's about turning the dial on a few things. So seeing some of that sort of stuff come to life, really exciting.
Sounds like it's getting more into the fun part now, is it?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Well, I was going to say, I looked at the clock just quickly and I'm like, my gosh, that time has just
Fine.
absolutely vanished. And it has been fun. Speaking of fun, I really, really loved this chat. It's been so good just to chat about, personal resilience, business resilience, sales, leadership, all of these type of things. It's been great. And I think that there's just been so much value here for people that are listening that they can take away, and lots of really practical stuff. And I really appreciate you being so open about how you do what you do.
No, thank
I
you.
just,
Really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I've been such a big fan of yours and your podcast for some time. And even from a year and a half ago when I first took some of those tips away, you've changed the way that I've done certain things, and purely your ability around resilience is just phenomenal. So thank you.
oh, thank you. I'm so grateful that that's been that's been useful. And I know we've been bouncing messages and voice notes backwards and forwards for a while
Yeah.
since then. So yeah, it's always nice to hear, especially when someone actually picks up something and then they actually then incorporate it into their rituals for
Mhm.
resilience. And so it's always awesome just to hear, what lands and then also what sticks.
Yes.
Really
Yeah.
glad, especially on the journaling front. And yeah, I've actually just hit 9 years of not missing a night of journaling.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That
I
is
know. And
incredible.
so I'm gonna write up something about it, and because it's my non-negotiable. So it's really nice when I hear people that really click to the process and how I approach it as well. So it's
I'm blown away. 9 years without missing one. That to me, I don't think I'm that consistent. I'm sure that I've missed a few nights. So maybe the goal for me should be consistency of something every single day, making sure I don't miss one.
I guess it just depends. Like if it works for you, and that's the thing for me. It's been something that's been transformational. It's worked. So, and also too, I think once you get to a certain point, it's just like you won't break the chain.
Mm.
So, because I could not imagine if I broke that now, like not even gonna think about it. So, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just that thing. It's like you don't go to bed without cleaning your teeth. It's like I don't go to bed without doing that. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it just becomes one of those things. And I think with anyone, then it's just a matter of it's picking one thing to start with, and then making that a consistent practice, and then you can always build on that. But I think it's important to just find, I think I hadn't really thought about this before, but it's kind of like an anchor, an
Yeah.
anchor ritual or an anchor practice, that regardless of what doesn't happen during the course of the day, I think it's really nice when there's that one thing that you do on a consistent basis that you can sort of feel that you've got that discipline or that commitment, and there's that evidence to show that you've actually stuck with something over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Absolutely.
sort of feel, that it's, and it's like you look at it like, man, lots happens in 9 years. And so it's nice to have something that's sort of stuck. So, but yeah, so I'm really long way to say I'm really grateful that you've shared that practice has been so beneficial for you as well. And I love hearing that if it's, just again, it's putting some ideas out there, and again, so testing it. And you might have just gone, okay, I'm gonna give it a go, and then go
Yeah.
back to your practice. But yeah, it's cool that that one has worked for you.
I want to come back to you in 9 years and be like, I'm stuck to this every single day. That to me is probably going to be my next goal, Stacey.
If it's inspired something there, and
Watch
and
out.
again, yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I'd love to hear how you go with that.
Yeah, for sure. That's
Uh,
wonderful. Yeah, thanks again.
No, it's been awesome. And just and speaking of these, rituals for resilience, these resilience rocks. There's just if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that there's one more rock at the end of it before we wrap up. So I'd love to know, because music being a ritual for resilience, I'd love to know if you needed to shift your energy in a very short period of time, is there a particular song that you would play to do that?
Oh, yes, actually. And it's probably a bit lame. I don't know if it's lame, but George Michael, Freedom. Like, if I'm ever going out on a long run and I don't want to do it, that's the song I listen to, and just even the intro, and I start to, yeah, feel my feet underneath me start to increase in pace. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do this. So, yeah, who doesn't love a bit of George Michael?
Freedom, George Michael. Well, it's going to be going straight to the Resilience Rocks playlist on Spotify now. We'll be there in your honor, Regan.
Thank you
And
very much.
yeah, and thank you again. I said it's been a really good chat. I've loved it. And also, if people have listened to this today and they've gone, oh my gosh, I definitely want to connect with Regan. I might want to have a conversation with Regan or follow your posts and updates. Where is the best place for someone to do that?
Yeah, just on LinkedIn, look up Regan Barker. It should just be linkedin.com/Regan Barker, all one word. I do get a fair few requests, and I always try to make sure that I make time for people. I love an early morning virtual coffee or face-to-face coffee. So don't hesitate to reach out. One of the best parts about my role and being more vocal on things like LinkedIn is the amazing people I've met along the way, including yourself. So yeah, always happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, I will pop a link to your LinkedIn profile to underneath this episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or whether you're listening to it on your favorite podcast platform. I'll pop the link there. And until we meet again on the next episode of Resilience Rock Sales, be your best. Thanks for joining us again this week on Resilience Rock Sales. Don't just listen though, take action. The best sales professionals are always learning. Head over to resiliencerocks.com now to go backstage and get the resources mentioned today to help rock your sales goals.